afternoon and welcome to News Now. Here are the stories that are making highlights at this particular hour. But first, let's take a look at the headlines.
The highlights. A win for employed Kenyans as the High Court in Nairobi ruled the housing levy within the Finance Act 2023 unconstitutional.
A notice issued by KRA informing the public that it has been appointed by the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development to collect the housing levy does not have any legal basis under the KRA Act.
Also, leaders urge President William Ruto to demonstrate commitment to lowering the cost of living by repealing the Finance Act 2023.
Hiyo ndio kazi muhimu ya serikali, kutoa mzigo kwa wananchi.
And government rolls out plans to boost the film industry by incentivizing the youth to actively participate in its growth.
Thank you so much for joining us once again. To start us off, employed Kenyans have a reason to celebrate as the High Court in Nairobi declared the housing levy in the Finance Act 2023 unconstitutional. Now, the court cited its vagueness and the absence of a legal mandate from the Kenya Revenue Authority to collect it. Additionally, the court deems the levy discriminatory, questioning its exclusion of other income earners without sufficient government justification. Now, the landmark decision has been delivered by a 3-judge bench made of Justice David Majanja, Christine Mioli, and Lawrence Mugambi, following petitions challenging the Finance Act 2023.
Act. We have also looked at the Public Finance Management Act, which permits the Cabinet Secretary, in this case the Cabinet Secretary responsible for finance, to designate in writing persons as receivers of government revenue. It is therefore not possible for the Cabinet Secretary for Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development to authorize collection of a levy which, as we have held, constitutes a tax under Article 209 of the Constitution. We therefore reject the argument by KRA that it is entitled to collect housing levy merely on the ground that it is entitled to charge a commission on the amount it collects in accordance with Section 1610BA of the KRA Act. The authority to collect taxes must be issued by the Cabinet Secretary for Finance. As we have shown, the framework for the housing levy legislated by Section 54 does not meet the requirements of good governance, transparency, accountability as required by Articles 10(2)A and C of the Constitution. We must point out, though, that this court does not purport to prescribe any form of legal framework to be adopted by the national government, as this is a matter within its mandate. Our concern is that the legislation imposes the housing levy and sets its purpose and no more. How does an objective observer determine whether the purpose has been met or that the monies have been applied for the intended purpose when the manner of achieving that purpose has not been defined? The national government is required to demonstrate a rational connection between the purpose of that legislation and the means by which it is achieved. We hold that Section 94 of the Finance Act is not the kind of legal framework contemplated by Article 10, 201 and 210 of the Constitution. The petitioners also complained that the housing levy applies to one category of the population, namely salaried workers in formal employment. They contend that this violates Article 27 of the Constitution, which protects equality and prohibits discrimination, and 201(b)(1), which requires the tax burden to be shared fairly. They also complained that the housing levy amounts to double taxation because employees pay it in addition to income through pay-as-you-earn tax. Further, that it imposes an obligation on the employer to pay the levy despite the fact that under Article 30, Section 30, the employer is required to provide housing. The respondents countered this by stating that the county faces.
Still within the capital, Principal Secretary for Internal Security and National Administration, Raymond Omolo, has given an update on the current flood situation in the country at Nyayo House, which is the National El Nino Emergency and Disaster Response Command Center. Let's cross over and listen in.
Development, the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, the Ministry of ESC, ASALS and Regional Development, the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. The Council of Governors, as well as the Kenya Red Cross Society, have similarly been sanctioned to augment emergency response and interventions being implemented. At the county level, disaster response and security committees have also been activated to coordinate interventions and also address the disaster situation in the respective areas. Saving lives and reducing the impact of the heavy rains through early warning and disaster monitoring remains the government's top priority, and having every sector and stakeholder working in sync is the surest way of mitigating and responding to this emergency. As at today, 4 counties have been identified as the worst hit, and this includes Tana River, Garissa, Wajir, and Mandera counties. 9 counties, including Isiolo, Kwale, Homa Bay, Makueni, Tharaka Nithi, Lamu, Taita Taveta, Meru, and Kisumu, are also on high alert. From October to date, 120 people have unfortunately died, and their families have been duly informed. 9 bodies were retrieved from Mombasa, while 4 were retrieved from Lake Victoria. A total of 89,000 households have been displaced and are being hosted in a record 112 camps established in the affected counties. Through our search and rescue efforts, over 2,000 people have been assisted and are undergoing medical checkups at the camps that have been set up. The government has similarly distributed food, water, and non-food items to a number of counties.
Right, residents of PIE Trading Center in Mwea East, Kirinyaga County woke up to a rude shock after finding a 3-story building collapsed. Now, the residents, led by Michael Chomba, said that the owner of the collapsed building had stopped construction for the last 2 months. Chomba said that they were shocked to find the residential building had collapsed with debris scattered all over the compound that has been fenced all round using a live fence. Now, residents say they are not sure whether there was anyone in the building by the time of the collapse, since the gate to the compound was still locked.
Mimi ni mkaanji wa hii area PI. Mahali tuko kunaitwa Maigaine, na ukiangalia hii mjengo iko hapa ilikuwa inajengwa na ni nyumba ilikuwa inaenda karibu ghorofa ya 5. Hii nyumba hatujajua mwenyewe kabisa, inaonekana ni mtu alikuwa amekuja amenunua hapa na ameanza kujenga. Na kulingana na sisi wakati tumekuja na tumeona hii nyumba ilibomoka usiku, na tukiangalia tunaona ni kama nyumba ilikuwa imejengwa vibaya, hatujui contractor, hatujui ni nani. Na saa ile hofu tuko nayo ni kujua kama kuna mtu ama kuna mtu yeyote anaweza kuwa huko, sababu kumekuwa na mafundi wamekuwa wakiendelea na kazi na hakuna mtu tunaona, na kumefungwa na hatuoni serikali. So tunaogopa na tungeuliza serikali ikuje iweze kufungua hii, sababu mwenyewe hayuko na patikani huko ndani, ama kuna mtu yeyote amepata. Hii nyumba ilikuwa imefika ghorofa ya inaenda ghorofa ya 5. Kwa hivyo ni nyumba ilikuwa mjengo kubwa, ilikuwa imeendelea na ilikuwa bado inaendelea kujengwa, lakini kuna watu wamekuwa wakikaa huko wakijenga na wengine nini huko.
Muka mapema watu wakienda kazi wanashinda, kwani nyumba ilienda wapi? Nyumba ya ghorofa 5. Wamuka tukapata imebomoka yote, hata ni kama takataka imeletwa hapo. Sasa tunashindwa kwani nyumba ilienda wapi?
Now, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education officials now want the Ministry of Education to revisit the systems governing the new education model, CBC, saying that many secondary schools in the country do not have the capability to support the junior secondary schools, JSS, due to the lack of adequate facilities. Now, he says that the new system tends to strain teachers with tasks which they haven't trained on professionally, which is becoming a problem and a threat to the education system in the country.
Kusema kwamba shule za JSS ikuwe domiciled in high school. Ukiangalia curriculum ama vitu ambavyo topics na subjects ile watoto wanafaa kufundishwa ni masomo ambayo yanaweza kutekelezwa vilivyo katika shule za upili ambazo zina exist kwa sasa. So tunasema kwa most of the primary schools, unless the private, lakini zile za public hakuna laboratories, Hakuna rooms zile walimu, there's no music room, there are no swimming pools zile wanatakana kutumia kujifunza mambo mengi ya technology and competence, na tunasema serikali ihakikishe kwamba wamerudi na kurudisha hao watoto na kupeleka hawa kwa secondary school. Jambo lingine kuhusu walimu wetu ambao walipokuwa chuo kikuu walifundishwa walifanya course ya subjects 2, masomo mawili. Kwa sasa mwalimu yule anafaa kufundisha jiografia na Kiswahili, anaambiwa afundishe masomo 14.
Now let's move to Kakamega County, where the residents of that county have threatened to call for protests following the rampant cases of insecurity that seems to be on the rise each day. The move comes after 5 border borders were stolen and their operators killed in a span of 1 month. Led by one of the area leaders, the residents have asked the police to heighten the security measures in a bid to do away with crime in the area. They have also urged the government to install street lights in the area, as this is one of the main causes of insecurity in the region.
Njia kutoka Musonga pia mtu akadungwa visu mingi sana kwa kichwa. Alafu pia hapa kuna wanafunzi pia asubuhi mapema wakati wanaraukia shule wananyang'anywa uniform asubuhi. Na usiku pia tumekuwa na visa vya watu kuvunja nyumba na kuchukua vitu kama sana TV za flat screen. Hapa ni Kakamega town. Waangalie wajaribu kuweka lights. Ukiweka lights visa za uhalifu zinapunguka. Mimi kitu ningependa kuonya watu wetu wa bodaboda ya kwamba ikifika saa 12:30 ya jioni usikubali kubeba mtu ambaye haumjui.
One thing we want is development and security. Security is most important to our lives. So kama governor na MCA hawata address the issue of security, we have the mandate in our hands.
Now, within the same county, the High Court in Kakamega has asked Mumias East MP Peter Salasia to pay back businessman Robert Luther his debt worth 500,000 shillings and also to pay the court penalties. Mr. Luther produced a statement from KCB Bank that indicated that on December 13th, he actually transferred the money to the MP. Salasia on his side has denied the claims, saying that he was the one who gave the businessman 1 million shillings. While delivering the ruling, Judge Gladys Kiama dismissed Salasia's claims, terming them as baseless with no supportive grounds.
Known as Robert Luther, he sued the Member of Parliament for Mumias East. And today the court has made a ruling in favor of my client that the MP should pay the money that he owes my client. And we are now proceeding to move to execute the judgment.
In the end, I find that the claimant has successfully proven his claim as against the respondent. I further find that the respondent has not successfully proven his claim as against the claimant. His counterclaim cannot stand. I hereby order as follows. Judgment is hereby entered in favor of the claimant as against the respondent for the sum of 500,000 plus costs of the suit and interest at court rates from the date of judgment till payment in full.
In Kissi County, the woman rep, Doris, has expressed concerns, that is Doris Donya Aburi, has expressed concerns over the alarming number of children born and neglected in the county. Speaking during the 16 days of activism, the women rep has spoken of violence at Sosera Health Center in Nyamasibi Ward. Aburi chastised the society for being silent on the matter, saying that it will escalate the number of neglected children in the society. Now, Aburi urged the government to cater for such children in need by ensuring they have access to free education and health care.
In days gender-based violence. Sometimes tukiattend church functions unapata mama mwenye akili siti mamu ako na mtoto mkononi. Ukiuliza huyu mtoto ametoka wapi, wanasema akiona. Hata sisi tulikuwa tunashangaa sana, mimba ametoa wapi? Huyu mama yeye amebeba huyu mtoto ako sawa, lakini hata jua vile analinda huyu mtoto. Ni ngumu pate mwanaume mwenye akili siti mamu ana engage kwa mambo ya love, kwa sababu labda hata hajui. Lakini sasa kwa upande wa mama hata ajui anafanyiwa nini. Yeye anaweza fikiria mtu anamvua nguo amtibu. Tusipoongea hizi vitu, hata serikali sasa tufungue macho. Huyu mtoto nani atampeleka shule? Rates za GBV zinaanza kwenda chini. Kuna wakati wa Disemba, sisi kama region ya Wakisii tunakeketa wasichana. Tukiwa hapa pia tunaambia kina mama hilo ni jambo limepitwa na wakati.
Now that story ushers us to a very short break. Let's take a breather, but when we come back, more news.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Kenya's biggest comedy talk show. This is a Dr. Foniga Tonight. Wapinduru kama iko.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
For people, for better.
Welcome back to News Now. Leaders from the western region of the country have congregated in Kakamega to discuss the future of the community, focusing particularly on issues such as the cost of living, employment for the youth, and the high levels of poverty in the area. This comes after the revelation that the area is suffering from dire poverty, despite the area possessing abundant resources that can improve the lives of residents. The leaders say that the conference aims to look for solutions to the area's problems so as to eradicate hunger in the area.
Tumefanikiwa pia kuweza kuongeza idadi ya wageni wetu. Naibu wa gavana katika gatuzi la Vihiga mwaka 2000, Daktari Patrick Saisi, makofi kwake. Asante, karibu. Fahamu sana, wengine wamemsikiza, wengine wamemtazama kwenye uongozi wa taifa hili au rais wa taifa hili, mheshimiwa sana. Thank you. Wakati huu naomba kwamba tuende kwa haraka kidogo tafadhali. Kananu ambaye vile vile ataweza kutueleza kiufupi. Kwa safi sana, kuja nisaidie mbele kidogo tu kabla mama aweze kutuondokea. Naomba tuwa viongozi wote ambao ni waandalizi kamati ya mpige picha na mama county kabla ni.
Miaka mingi sana tumezungumza mambo ya umoja wa sehemu hii, lakini tumekuwa tukizungumza mambo ya umoja kuhusu viongozi na sio wananchi. Lakini kongamano hili linamlenga mwananchi wa sehemu hii wa kawaida, ili huo umoja uanze chini ukielekea juu.
Na tuko sasa na vyakula aina nyingi. Tunaona hata county zetu zote zinafanya smart agriculture. Tunaenda into livestock, poultry farming, tuna fish farming, aquatic farming, tuko na njia nyingi sasa ya kuchangia katika sekta hii ya ukulima.
Is that as a community, if you look at various reports, we are a community with the highest poverty level or poverty index, and that majority of our people are really poor. And they are poor because we lack manufacturing, we lack job opportunities. Our sugarcane sector is struggling, and that policies to attract investors, even from the diaspora, are lacking. You can obviously see that we have sites for tourist attractions, but they have not, the county has not invested.
Now let's get sporty. The national ladies football team Harambe Starlets have held their last training ahead of tomorrow's 2024 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers match against Botswana. Led by coach Beldine Odemba, the squad is optimistic that they will bag the first leg of the match before flying to Botswana for the second leg. Now speaking during their training, Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa said they are confident that they will qualify, and Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba, who was also present during their training, promised them 5 million shillings if they qualify for June's 2024 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco.
We're looking forward to them putting in a good shift. They'll be playing an incredibly strong team tomorrow. Botswana is a World Cup team. Players who have played in the African Champions League, Women Champions League. In fact, the top scorer in the Women Champions League is Botswana, and will be on that team facing our girls tomorrow. But I have every confidence that our girls are similarly talented.
The women game is growing every day. I'm very myself impressed by what we have done so far with these girls. I believe that we're looking at World Cup 27 because we missed last year. I believe we were going to go to last year if there were no issues.